Hi, welcome. So glad you've chosen to learn Reiki with me. I love to teach, and it's a great privilege to teach you. You're going to get a lot out of this course. You're going to get an enormous amount out of learning Reiki when you practice this regularly. If you're able to practice this daily, what's going to happen is that you'll look back after 6 months, a year, and you'll see enormous change, deepening in your intuition, a deepening in your subtle awareness, and a really powerful ability to work with energy, to heal yourself and to heal other people. So what I wanted to do quickly was just to briefly introduce myself, so you have an idea of who I am and why I'm teaching Reiki, why I think that I'm qualified to do this. So my name is Justin Peach. I'm an Englishman, and I've been teaching Reiki for more than 20 years. I live in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. I have a center here. I teach Reiki, and as much as I love working with Reiki, I think that everything is interesting, everything is relevant. So personally, I practice meditation, practicing meditation for many, many years. And I also practice Qigong daily. I do 1 or 2 hours of Qigong, which is a very powerful form of energy cultivation. And we have a yoga center here, so we do a lot of yoga. I do as much yoga as I can. Being in an Englishman's body, really I need to do probably much more yoga than I do at the moment to be more flexible. But whether it's shamanism, whether it's Advaita, whether it's Tai Chi, everything to me is interesting, everything is relevant, because for as long as I can remember, I've been trying to answer the question, who am I and why am I here? Things didn't make sense. School didn't make any sense to me. It was a very painful experience from primary school, from kindergarten. Already as a young child, it was a very traumatic experience. So school didn't make much sense to me. Didn't understand why we were doing what we were doing. There was really nobody that could help me get some context. I thought that I was pretty stupid because I didn't understand why we were sitting in the classroom each day. And then when I left school, I tried to get a job, earn money, do the things that we're supposed to do that's going to make us happy. But even though I enjoyed some of the jobs that I had, most of the time I was unhappy. I didn't know why I was doing it. I was doing it as everybody else was doing it, but it was not fulfilling. So I was always trying to answer the question, why are we here? What am I doing here? Is there not some kind of higher purpose? Is there not something that's going to give me a deeper sense of meaning and purpose? And I can remember being in the car with my parents and asking very intensely as a teenager, I think I was 18 or 19, what's going on and why are we here? And I can remember pretty much as clear as if it was yesterday that they said, well, don't worry, Justin, we understand your questions, we understand that you're wrestling with this kind of stuff because we did when we were your age, but don't worry, because after a while it just all goes away and it doesn't really bother you anymore. And I thought, wow, how terrible would it be for my desire to find out who I am and why I'm here, for that desire to just fade. So that was kind of like an alarm bell, a wake-up call that this is a question that I really need to pursue vigorously and pursue with intent. So I was always looking, trying to find out. We didn't have internet when I was younger. There wasn't much information available. I didn't really find any good books, but I just kept looking and looking and looking. And when I was quite young, I moved to the Netherlands, and I went to a Reiki course. It was one of the first things that I did that really helped me to kind of wake up. And I think that I was personally quite a tough customer to teach because as an English man, you're very closed off. I was a very closed off, almost sort of emotionally crippled person. So I was not open. I was very closed, very into myself, did not really understand how to deal with emotions, how to deal with feelings. And learning Reiki really opened all that up for me. Now, it wasn't easy. It wasn't like the heavens opened and it was a hallelujah moment. The only thing that really happened when I went to my first Reiki course was that I had the kind of feeling that I'd fallen on my hands and that my hands were sore. But my intuition was very clear that I should continue with this. So I was practicing and practicing. I'd learned to meditate, so I was meditating as much as I can. And slowly but surely, after a certain amount of time, I started to feel energy, and I could feel it very, very clearly. And this was very interesting for me, that there was this whole new dimension of life which opened up, which I could experience in a different way to my rationality and to my mind. And it was very, very tangible and very real. So I started to work with Reiki as much as I could, treating myself. I went to take a Reiki 2 course, take everything deeper. And it was great. It was a great experience. Reiki 2 took me deeper, and I wanted to go really as far as I could with this to find out what was possible. Many years ago, this is more than 20 years ago, it was very difficult actually to become a Reiki Master because it was very expensive. It was thousands and thousands of dollars, pounds, euros, whatever it was back then. And so I couldn't find anybody straight away, so I had to look and look and look. But I had this feeling that there would be someone who would be available to teach me. And quite coincidentally, I came across somebody who was a Reiki Master who was prepared to teach me pretty much for free. That was fantastic. So I took my Master attunement, and I, at that time, started a practice. I started a Reiki practice. I was treating a lot of people and getting an enormous amount of experience. And then what happened was that I was invited actually to teach Reiki. And being young and arrogant, I thought, well, sure, why not? I'm sure I can do this. How difficult can it be? I had a friend who arranged workshops, and he basically arranged for me and another Reiki Master to teach. And we decided to do it a little bit differently. Back then, Reiki was not very accessible. It wasn't very easy to take a course because it was actually so expensive. For me to take my Reiki 2 course, I had to sell my guitar and my amplifier and say goodbye to any possible musical future that I had, because I wanted to take the Reiki 2 course. So what we wanted to do was to make Reiki available and accessible. So we decided to do it differently. We did it quite a lot differently than how it was traditionally being taught. We decided to give a Reiki Master course all in one. So we would give the Reiki 1 and the 2 in a weekend, and the Reiki Master course after a month. And it worked really, really well. And we made it financially very accessible for people. It was really not expensive at all. So we were so busy, actually people were lining up to register, that we were able to teach pretty much full-time through the Netherlands and through Belgium, and giving courses all over the place. So it was a great experience for me to be teaching. It was a good way to learn to teach. I made a ton of mistakes, being young and arrogant and thinking that I knew a lot about spirituality. I found out the hard way how to teach a course, how to teach a Reiki course, and how not to teach a Reiki course. So learning by doing, but it was a great experience. And working with Reiki was great. It taught me a lot. But I was also quite a serious spiritual seeker still, and I was looking for enlightenment. And I thought enlightenment would really be the end of all my problems. And what I didn't really understand, it took me quite a few years, was that you still have to pay the rent. If you have kids, you still have big responsibility. So spirituality, if it really has any genuine meaning, needs to express itself in your day-to-day life, with your family, with your partner, with your children, with everything that you're doing, with your job. So slowly, I started to come back down to earth. But I had, in the meantime, come across a teacher who I studied with for about 14 years. So he was a hardcore enlightenment teacher, not a sweet, beautiful, mystical Indian guru, but quite a hard-nosed, very confrontational New York Jewish teacher, enlightenment teacher. But I learned an awful lot being with him. He taught us an awful lot about the difference between authentic self and ego. Very challenging person to be with, because he would always point out our ego to us. And difficult as it was, it taught me an awful lot. It really helped me out to understand who I am at a very, very, very deep level. So one of the things that I learned was that spirituality, enlightenment, self-realization is beautiful, is wonderful. It's very powerful to have an experience of non-duality. It certainly is very, very helpful, but it only has any true meaning in the way that it expresses itself between you and other people. Because otherwise, spirituality really, and speaking from my own experience, is fundamentally an escape. If you're looking to become enlightened, if you're looking only for spiritual experience, and you don't know how to translate that into everything that you're doing, if that's not giving you a deeper meaning and purpose, if that's not informing you really of what your next step should be, if that's not helping you align with your life path, then really, more than anything else, it's an escape. Now, interestingly enough, ironically enough, my teacher wasn't particularly impressed with Reiki. So when I first met him and we were in a large gathering of maybe 400 people, first time I spoke to him, which was quite daunting, he said to me, so what is it that you do? And I said, well, hey, I'm a Reiki teacher. And he said, you know, Reiki schmeiki, what about being nobody? And that was quite a wake-up call for me, because it really helped me start to realize all the spiritual pretense that I had, parts of my ego that were invested in kind of running away from myself. So it was another movement that helped me come back to myself. But I never let go of Reiki. I have been teaching all of the time, but it's helped me to find the most grounded place to teach Reiki from. Now, when I first started teaching Reiki, I was teaching it in the same way that it was taught to me. I was giving the same information, telling the same story in the same way, but I really felt strongly that there were pieces of the puzzle missing. There were things that I couldn't explain properly. So I started to research all aspects of what Reiki was, how it is to work with energy, what it really means. And a lot of that was primarily through working with it myself, through having my own practice, through teaching other people, but also working with my spiritual teacher helped me an enormous amount, really to get a broad perspective and context of what it was that I was doing. And I think very fundamental understanding for me was that I had to be able to understand through my own experience every aspect of what I was teaching to really have any kind of transmission, to be able to help people gain the experience of Reiki and their own direct connection of Reiki. So for me, understanding myself was really, really important. Having an embodied understanding of what I was teaching about has always been core of what I've been doing. So the way that I teach really is to help people, and what I really want to do is help you come to your own direct understanding of Reiki by bringing you more deeply in contact with your intuition, deeply in contact with the Reiki energy, and deeply in contact with your subtle awareness. Because more than anything, what I'm interested in doing is helping you to become empowered. Really, your connection with Reiki is your universal birthright as a human being. And there doesn't need to be any person, any dogma, any system, any belief in the way, in between you and your direct connection with spirit, you and your direct connection with Reiki. So what I'm really interested more than anything else in doing is helping you re-establish your natural connection with the cosmos, with spirit, with Reiki. So my job, as I see it, more than anything else, is to empower you, to help you connect with this energy so that you can develop your own intuition, your own subtle awareness, which means that you'll be able to answer your own questions for yourself directly from here, from your heart, from your belly, from your subtle awareness. And then you will understand that you have the power to develop as much as you want to. And it will be much easier to find your way forwards, find what the next step, the correct step is on your path, to really align with your highest potential. And I really do feel, and I say this without any sense of irony, that it is my responsibility to help you as much as I can to get as much out of Reiki as possible, because my own experience has taught me that it's a very, very powerful practice that will help you a lot. And my own inquiry as a spiritual seeker has shown me again and again and again that it really is possible to answer any question that you really want to know. As long as you are passionate enough and you have a very strong intention, you can find out what it is that you need to know. And because that's been my experience, it would be wrong of me really to do anything less than help you as much as I possibly can get the deepest possible connection with Reiki and get the deepest possible connection with yourself, so that you have autonomy and that you don't need anybody or anything outside of yourself to go as far as you possibly can in this life. So I hope that gives a little bit of an idea of who I am, why I'm teaching Reiki, and I think that it's good that you feel that you can connect with this, because there are other ways of teaching Reiki, right? You can have a more traditional approach where someone tells you the rules, this is the book, this is how you should do it. And I think that for a lot of people that's an appropriate way to understand something new, especially if we're talking about something spiritual or metaphysical, but it's not my approach. Really what I want to do is help empower you and to really bring you in contact directly with your own capacity to find out your own capacity to be in contact with spirit, be in contact with the Reiki energy, so that you can go as far with this as you really want to. One thing I have learned over the years I do need to point out that I have a sense of humor. Being English, I think that's just part of my sort of cultural DNA. But it also means that I make jokes about spiritual stuff. And what I've found, and maybe this is a little bit my experience with Dutch people, is that they don't really like jokes about spiritual things, because spiritual stuff is very serious and we have to be very serious about it, and it's a little bit holy. And I think that as much as I take my spiritual development very seriously, and I take your spiritual development very seriously, that it's very important to keep a sense of humor, that we need to not take ourselves overly seriously, because real spiritual work, real shadow work, real self-development really is actually very challenging. It costs us a lot to look at the most difficult parts of ourselves, and it costs us a lot sometimes to be courageous on the spiritual path. And to do that without a sense of humor is actually quite difficult. So I do make jokes about spiritual stuff, so I hope you like it. I don't know what to say. I hope that's okay. So I hope this gives you an idea of who I am, why I'm here, and why I'm doing this. And I really hope you can get an awful lot out of this course.